Okay, so today I will be talking about something that a lot of people that I mentor, uh, it's actually like start happening a lot in the last maybe a couple of years, which is a lot of people, regardless of their experience, would say that they would be sending a lot of emails and applying for a lot of companies, and they never get any responses back. So they don't even get to the stage that they talk to a human. They just get rejected right away, or sometimes even not receive any response back. And I want to cover like a lot of reasons why this could be happening, including the most obvious one, which is your resume. Okay, so before going deeper into this, I want to give like a little bit of background about myself. I have been in tech industry for about like 23, 24 years. During that time, I worked in like bigger companies like FANG, companies like Google, Amazon, and like FANG Plus like Microsoft, mid-sized companies like Deliveroo, like Booking.com, a lot of startups. I worked in about 8, 9 countries so far. I stopped counting a long time ago. I have been mainly involved or mainly working on leadership roles for the last 10, 15 years, give or take. That's both as a tech lead and as a manager. And in both cases, I hired a lot of people in those companies and also outside. I made interviews for a lot of people like worldwide. That's within the job and also as a consultant and as someone working on platforms like Mentor Cruise, like interviewing.io and different places. I would say in my entire life, I performed maybe somewhere within like 3 to 5,000 different interviews. And in addition to this, I'm also like a polymath, so I went through like over a dozen different fields that has nothing to do with software. So I want to give you like a kind of a 360 kind of degree view into like what could be going wrong, what could be the problems and things like that, okay? So let's start with the obvious reasons why when you apply for something like you don't get a response back or you get an automated rejection or something like that. First of all, like the most obvious one, you're applying for something that's basically it you don't fit that position. Like for example, you could be applying for something that's like a principal level engineer and you could be a junior level and you apply and then you get rejected, which is happening because a lot of people focus on like just as a minimum requirements without going into what's actually needed from the job. Let's actually do a quick example about that. So let me start sharing the screen here. And let's go to the browser and let's try to find something as a Google job. So let's try to find like anything in software. Let's do like a full-time and let's do software engineer. Let's try to find something a little bit more senior. And let's try this one, okay? So most people would make a mistake of just looking at this section and be like, okay, I can do that. Let's actually get something more generic, like this one. So a lot of people would just look at this and say like, okay, I have what it takes to become a senior engineer at Google. So what is the minimum qualification here? It's bachelor degree or equivalent practical experience. So someone who just graduated yesterday would say like, I have that. 5 years experience with software development in C++ programming language. Someone who has been programming C++ since the first day in school and then like got and have like 1 year of experience would say like, okay, I have 5 years experience with C++. 3 years experience testing, maintaining or launching software products. They would say like, okay, I have been building software products for 5 years, including 4 years in college. And here it is saying or, so I have experience testing and maintaining. I pass that. And then 3 years of experience with developing large scale infrastructure, distributed system or network, or experience with compute technologies, they would say like, okay, I have this section, or experience with compute technologies. So I have all the minimum requirements as someone with only 1 year of experience outside university. So why I cannot be hired as a senior software engineer? Okay? They would say like, okay, preferred qualification. Yeah, that's just the preferred, but it's not required. And they would basically discard this entire section. So here is the reality about jobs like that. Minimum qualifications are basically things that, as it say, minimum qualification. Like if you're applying, for example, for a position of a neurosurgeon in US or UK, one of the minimum qualifications that you hold, like a degree in medicine, and the other one that you're speaking English. Does this mean that anyone who graduated from with a degree in medicine who speaks English can become a neurosurgeon tomorrow? No. Why? Because this part is actually way more important than this. This is just the minimum qualification that the automated system would pretty much discard your resume if it cannot like get any point of this. But the actual job, the actual part that you need to actually measure yourself against is this. So let's start with responsibilities first. So it says here, right, this is responsibilities, basically what you'll be doing day to day. So you need to be writing and testing product or system development code. Do you have anything in your resume or your experience that basically can show that you have been consistently doing this on a production level? The other one, lead or participate in design reviews with peers and stakeholders to decide among available technologies. Again, do you have anything in your resume that says that you have been consistently doing that? Like, have you been leading any projects? Have you been doing anything? Have you even done design reviews before? Do you even know what design reviews are? Here it's saying review code developed by other developers and provide feedback to ensure best practices. Have you ever done that in a school? Most probably no, because you have been working alone. And I haven't yet seen people who start doing like code reviews and stuff like that while they're in school. So do you consistently show this? Contribute to existing documentation or educational content, adapt the content based on product, program updates, and user feedback. Again, anything in your resume remotely reflects this. Triage product or system issues and debug, track, and resolve them by analyzing the source of issues and impact on hardware, network, or service operation and quality. Again, do you even know what triage is? Do you see something that's consistently doing that? So everything here needs to be shown in your resume consistently, which means you have been doing everything here for at least like 4 or 5 years, okay? Now let's go to the job itself. Say Google Cloud Software Engineers develop the next generation technologies that change how billions of users connect, explore, and interact with information and one another. Again, have you shown anything in your resume that remotely reflects this? Have you been, of course, like not everyone applying for Google would be doing things that billions of users would be using, but have you shown anything that even used by thousands of users? Even hundreds of users? Does this exist anywhere in your resume? We are looking for engineers who bring fresh ideas from more areas, including information retrieval, distributed computing, large-scale system design, networking and data storage, security, artificial intelligence, natural language processing, UI design, and mobile. Again, anything remotely on in your resume shows consistent delivery in any of those topics. Production level delivery. The list goes on and is growing every day. As a software engineer, you will work on a specific project critical to Google Cloud needs, with opportunities to switch teams and projects as business grow and evolve. You will anticipate our customer needs. Again, have you shown anything that consistently showing you anticipating customer needs? Have you ever been empowered to act as an owner? Have you ever been empowered before to take actions and innovate? Do you have any proof on this? We need our engineers to be versatile, display leadership qualities, and be enthusiastic to take on a new problems across full stack, continue to push technologies forward. Again, have you shown any consistent leadership qualities on your resume? Does it say anything related to this? So pretty much like the gap between just looking at this and actually looking at what matters is very clear now, okay? So that's like the first problem that most people like basically start like having problems with is when they basically submit their resumes for jobs that they are clearly not qualified to work on. This is the first problem for not getting any responses or getting automated rejections. Another problem is when do you apply? So if you go to like LinkedIn, and let me actually show an example of this again. So let me put it on the screen and then share it. So let's open some jobs and let's share it again. Okay, so if we go now to LinkedIn and start looking at any job, like this one, okay? So if you look at this one, it was posted 3 days ago, and there is already like 96 applicants who applied for this. So if I clicked on easy apply right now, I would be number 97, unless like few other people like applied while I'm clicking on that. If we look at this, there is 27. If we look at this, there is over 100, and LinkedIn is maxed on 100. So over 100 could be 101, and it could be 5,000. It could be anything, okay? So the problem is if I applied for this and I have like the perfect resume and I have like what it takes to apply for this job and things like that, like here, for example, because I'm having LinkedIn Premium, it's giving me a notice that if I applied for this, I would be a top applicant. But even if I apply for this, the chances for my resume even getting reviewed is very slim. Why is that? Because there's like a lot of people before me. So the only reason why my resume would start looking at this is if those like 100 or 500 or 1,000 people really don't have that much people that qualify. So the idea how hiring managers and recruiters work, if they get like a 10,000 resume, they would not be looking at 10,000 like basically applications. It doesn't work this way, and it doesn't basically scale. What they do is basically they look at what they can actually test. So if they have a capacity to test like let's say 10 candidates, they would start reviewing resumes to fill those 10 slots. And then they would postpone looking at others until slots open, because it doesn't make sense for them to invest time in reading something that they may not even have a time to interview. Even worse, they cannot go and send like let's say email for the applicant number like 105, and by the time they set up like a meeting with that candidate, they could have they could have like ended up finding the perfect candidate for the job or filling the position, and then they need to send like a sorry email or something for that person. That kind would basically, or that kind of action would basically like pollute the reputation and make it go down. So reality is when you apply for a job that there was hundreds of thousands of people who already applied for that, your chance of even getting your resume reviewed like by a human is very low, unless again the quality of that pipeline is really bad. So that's like second most or one of the most top reasons why your resume gets rejected or no one replies back to you. The other one is that your resume is getting like basically downgraded or rejected by the ATS system depending on like what settings the recruiter choose, like whether it should automatically reject or just like put you at the end of the stack or something like this. And this is something that is very easy to test because like a lot of ATS like testing systems exist today that you can give it the job description and basically your resume, and it can give you a score. And then now, like the most, like basically important part, which is you not having a good resume. Okay, so in order to do this, here is what I did. I basically went to ChatGPT and I gave it like very clear instructions to create me like 3 versions of a resume for a random person. Okay, so there is not any PII here. It's actually a person that doesn't exist with companies that do not exist, things like that. And I basically gave it very clear instructions from the point of view of a recruiter or hiring manager about what is a bad resume looks like, what's a good resume looks like, and what's a really good resume looks like. And I will walk you through all of this, okay? So let's start by looking at a bad resume, which surprisingly, in my experience, over 95% of the people I meet end up doing that. So this is the bad resume, okay? So let's go over the sections. First one is your like biography, your name, email, location, LinkedIn, phone number, all those kind of stuff. And there is a nice summary here. So this resume is like for a mid-level backend engineer. So the summary reads, mid-level backend engineer with a strong experience building scalable systems and commercial backend services, skilled in designing APIs, working with databases and improving system reliability, comfortable collaborating with cross-functional teams and delivering high-quality code, experience in cloud platforms, microservices, and modern development practices. You could say like, okay, that's a nice summary. What else you would need from a back-end engineer? For me as a hiring manager, this is useless. This is beyond useless. Why is that? Because everything that's said here is you describing your day-to-day job. Pretty much, this is what I would expect any back-end engineer to be doing. For example, would you like hire a back-end engineer that's not skilled in designing APIs? Or a back-end engineer who cannot work with databases? Or a back-end engineer who is not delivering high-quality code? This is kind of like a given. It's like when people say in a resume that they can work in teams, they can work under pressure, they can pretty much like write good code. It's like, okay, that's a given. Like, this goes without saying. So this is useless, okay? Unless you give me like pretty clear, measurable, and impactful points that go with this, it becomes useless. Like when you say something like building scalable systems, what does this mean? Because scalable system from your perspective could be very different from my perspective. You could be someone who worked on like really small companies that no one heard of, and scalable in your mind is basically a system that can handle like maybe 100 or 200 requests per second, which pretty much in today's cloud providers and today's like basically hardware and things like that, you can build a monolith and get a monkey to jump on a keyboard and produce random crap, and still being able to handle that 100 and 200 like requests per second. From my perspective, a scalable system is something that could be handling like maybe 20, 30 millions requests per second. So a statement like this is useless unless you quantified it and qualified it. And I will go through that later. Now when we go through experience, okay, this person has worked in like 4 different companies. Okay, the first one, they worked as a back-end engineer in a company that's called Halcyon Pay, like thanks to ChatGPT, random name, in London from April 2024 to present. Okay, what did they do? They worked on a scalable backend service and improved overall system reliability, participated in building new APIs and integrated third-party providers, collaborated with product and QA teams to deliver new functionality, performed code reviews and contributed to team best practices, helped maintain microservice and supported production deployment. Again, useless. This is they are basically describing what their day-to-day is. I don't care about that at all. That's a given for me as a hiring manager. So the thing that you put in your mind when you're applying for a job, you are applying for a job that pay you, let's say, X, because that company is expected to get 5 to 10x out of what you do. Okay? So what I want to see as a hiring manager is what value you would be adding to me. What value you would be adding to the job. What value you would be adding to the team, to the organization, to the company, to the product. I want to see what did you deliver? What did you change? What impact did you created? I care like a zero kind of care, or like I don't even care at all of what you did every day. A statement like worked on a scalable backend service, that's useless. Collaborated with product and QA teams, okay, that's a given. Anyone working on any company is supposed to be collaborating with product and QA teams if they exist. Performed code review, okay, that's expected. Actually, you get like a very bad performance review if you don't do this as an engineer. The same pattern exists here, and here, and here. And it's even one more problem. I don't know what this company does. I never heard of it. I don't know what this company does. I never heard of it. I never heard of any of them. In our case, of course I didn't, because they are randomly generated. But in most cases, unless you worked in a company that's like a FANG company or something like a hyperscale startup like OpenAI or something like that, in most of the times, people would not know what is this. Is this like a startup that has like 5 total employees? Or this is like a hyperscale company that's generated a lot of revenue and it's already profitable? Or is it like a unicorn? I have no idea. And also, what kind of job you have been doing there? Are you like someone who have been like mainly working on writing a documentation, or your role has been critical to the company? Like, I cannot get any information like that from this. So, although on paper, it may seem that this person has over 6 years of experience, for me as a hiring manager, it's zero. I cannot get any useful information out of that. When we go to technical skills, that's fine. So there is a good like description here between like different programming languages, framework, database. Yeah, that's okay. Education. This person holds like a bachelor degree in computer science from University of Portsmouth, 4 years from 2015 to 2019. They completed modules in software engineering, databases, distributed system, and networking. They are basically describing what a typical computer science degree is, which is like, okay, I know what it is. This is useless. Studied algorithms, data structure, and operating system. Yeah, I expected them to be studying like sociology and physiology. I was wrong. They studied data structures. Like, it's crap. This is useless, okay? So the entire resume is beyond useless, okay? Let's now take a look on a better version of this, okay? Same person, same companies, same everything, but with a different view, okay? So here is a summary, is pretty much the same. Nothing changed. But what was added here is this, and this makes a lot of difference, okay? So here, that person said that they built and scaled back-end services, handling peak traffic spikes without regressions in availability or latency. Okay, that's good. Although it's still not quantifiable, and I cannot measure this, but at least they gave me that they did that, okay? They improved reliability through practical SLOs, better observability, safer release patterns. So I know for a fact that they know what SLO is. They know what observability is, okay? They shipped platforms improvement that reduced infrastructure cost while increasing throughput. Again, I still cannot measure that. Did it reduce it by like 10% or 5%? And how much is 10%? Are we talking about like $5 or $500,000? I don't know. But again, it is better than before. And now they start to add like something proof of impact. So they reduced P95 API latency by 38% from 420 milliseconds to 260 milliseconds by eliminating N+1 queries, introducing targeted caching and tightening database indexes. This is really good. It's not perfect yet because, again, the first question that would come to my mind, like why 420 millisecond was bad? Was it increasing, basically people, like like affecting conversion if it's like an e-commerce, or was it increasing bounce rate? Was it like creating some sort of dissatisfaction? I have no idea, but at least I can have like something measurable here. They cut monthly DWS spent by 17% by right-sizing compute, tuning auto-scaling, and removing underused workloads. This is already perfect as it is, but it is not like 100% perfect because, again, I don't know how much 17% is. It could be like $150, which means that if they spent more than a couple of hours doing that, it will start to become like a negative ROI. Or 17% could actually be something in like $500,000. And they could have spent like maybe a week doing that, which in this case would be a really positive ROI. But again, something like this is for me to look between like a mid-level and a senior and staff. But again, for a mid-level, it is perfect as it is. Because as a mid-level, I don't expect a very good mid-level to actually be aligning with actual business metrics and stuff like that. Otherwise, they would become a senior. They improved payment success rate by 1.9% points via idempotency. This word basically means that if you run, for example, like multiple database queries, they would not, like, for example, cause duplications or something like that. Like sometimes when you're buying something from an e-commerce platform, it will pop up a message saying, do not refresh this page, otherwise you could be charged twice. So this basically means that you prevent this from happening. The idea that they are even aware of this is already very positive, okay? Because most engineers don't even know what is this, okay? Providing failover and better retry semantics, that's already very good. So this summary already attracted my attention like really close right now. You always hear that hiring managers and recruiters take about like 20 to 30 seconds to review a resume. This is both right and wrong. It's 20 to 30 seconds to see if your resume got their attention or not. If it attracts the attention, it would be shortlisted for them to look later deeply. So in the 20 to 30 seconds, once my eyes like basically landed on keywords like this, like this, like this, like this, I already have like my full attention. This is already shortlisted, okay? Now when we go to the experience, it started to become even more and more clear how it is much better. Because I said earlier, I have no idea what this company is. The engineers that wrote this knew that fact, and they give me like a couple of sentences here to know what is this. So this company is a payment platform for UK SMPs offering online checkouts, payouts, and recurring billing. Daniel worked on transaction processing and integration layer used by merchants and partner platforms. This is perfect. So it gives me about a sentence and a half about what the company did, another sentence about what this person did. So I have a very clear understanding what their role are and what company. Now looking at this compared, let's open the older one, put it side by side. So here, as I said, this is useless. Now what changed is they actually focused on what they delivered. So they increased payment completion rate by 1.9% point. Again, some of the points here are pretty much extracted from here. It's not redundancy. It's basically like a summary. So they increased payment completion rate by this, implementing all of what we said before, which is perfect. Reduced chargeback investigation time by 45% by adding structure event trails and searchable transaction metadata across services. Lowered P95 latency by 31%. That is really nice. Improved release safety by rolling out canary deployment. Like, again, the whole idea of them even understanding or knowing what canary deployment is already very positive. Okay, so canary deployment for you who don't know what is this. So when you are deploying a change in like your backend nodes or like your compute or whatever, There is an approach which is like, okay, let's just roll it to everything at once, and then you need to deal with like downtime, what would happen if something goes wrong, rollback and stuff like that. And there is approach of canary, which basically you start deploying, let's say on like 5% of your cluster, test it, look at like matrix, observability, monitors, stuff like that, and then increase it to like 10%, 15%. It's like a progressive approach that basically guarantee almost, in most cases, zero downtime and a very quick pass into rollback without affecting customers. So them understanding that this even exists is already something that I feel very positive about as a hiring manager. Automated rollback, again, doing that is very positive. Reducing production incident time to release from 2 per month to under 1 per month. So they pretty much like cut like outages or incidents by 50%. That's huge, okay? Same pattern exists here. For the other company, they say that this company provides e-commerce infrastructure for mid-market retailers, including catalog, checkout, fulfillment categories, and that person worked on the order lifecycle services, partner integration, directly affected checkout conversion and fulfillment accuracy. This gives me a lot of information that I need to judge what they actually have been doing. And then on the top of this, they come up with impactful numbers. This person is already sold, okay? So they improved checkout reliability, reducing fill order creation by 28% through better validation. I cannot pronounce this word for some reason. Idempotent endpoints and transactional outbox patterns, reduced order processing times from 9 minutes to 4 minutes. That's really huge at peak by introducing Kafka-based async. So the idea here, by introducing, this gives me as a hiring manager that they are basically were acting as tech leads because they introduced a new technology, which means they were leading that effort without even saying that they were like a tech lead. That's something I can read very easily from those. So again, that pattern exists everywhere, even when they're like a junior. So that person is already sold. Now when we go even to education, remember how it looked before? Oh, I got a bachelor degree and I studied computer science. Great. Now it changed here. They added some information about final year project, which is real-time incident detection for web services, built a log ingestion plus anomaly detection pipeline, Kafka, Python, Postgres, processing 100K plus events a day in a simulated environment, delivered working dashboard that identified error spike within 30 seconds, 60 seconds, stuff like that. One thing that most people don't know, that your final year project is actually counted as experience. So when you do like this person here and tell me nothing about it, that's 1 year experience that you lost for nothing, for just not spending 5 more minutes writing more about it. In my view as a hiring manager, this person didn't start working from 2019. This person started working from 2018. Okay, so they don't have like 6 years of experience, they have 7, because this is an actual real project that I cannot measure what they did, what kind of impact and stuff like that. And they even went one step more and they added some selected coursework projects. So some other project like implemented a distributed key value store, prototype supporting replication, basic consistency, semantics with benchmarking and failure testing, built a secure REST API with authentication, authorization, and documented endpoints, including automated tests and CI checks. So I know for a fact that this person was not wasting time when they're in university. They're actually building really good stuff. So this person, this resume as it is already on the top of my stack for a mid-level engineer. Can it even be better? Yes. Let's look at the third version. So this one becomes even better by basically connecting technical delivery, technical impact into business impact. This is the main missing ingredients between someone becoming a mid-level and going into leadership, like senior and beyond, okay? So this section is the same as before. This section is the same as before. This is brilliant. It's just pure brilliance. This is when someone could be actually a mid-level, and I could take a step and leap of faith and actually hire them as a senior. Why is this? Because of this section, because of going beyond just being a very good technical engineer, okay? So they improved conversion rate by 50% to a total of 7.5% from 5%, and revenue capture by increasing payments and checkout success rates and reducing latencies at critical user journeys. This is huge. For anyone who worked in e-commerce, going from like 5% into 7.5% in your conversion rate is extremely good. For people who don't know what conversion rate is, basically in e-commerce, everything is treated as basically as a funnel. So the number of people landing on your homepage, going to like search results, going to product view, going to add to cart, going to view cart, going to the checkout process. The idea is that with every step, you are losing a lot of those people. So the conversion rate is pretty much the percentage of how many people landed versus how many people completed the purchase, okay? So 5% means, for example, that if there's 100 people landed on your homepage, you're getting 5 purchases, successful purchases at the end. So doing 50% increase is pretty much the closest that you get getting 50% increase in revenue. So this person on their own increased the e-commerce revenue by 50%. That's extremely huge, okay? This statement alone, if I'm leading a team in any e-commerce company, I would be chasing this person, okay? Reduced operating cost by 33% by right-sizing infrastructure, eliminating inefficiencies. Again, that's really big. Lowered business risk by reducing production incident by 24%, improving auditability and decreasing chargeback and dispute by 6%. This is extremely huge. So one of the biggest problems that face any e-commerce is basically the chargeback and disputes. Not only because it is headache, not only because you're losing money, but also you're using reputation. So they decreased that by 61%, which means that they found a missing gap that link a technical delivery to actual product delivery. Maybe the description was done incorrectly in product. Maybe the images were not showing the product in a right way. Maybe they added a section about technical details about the product. I don't know. I would be very interested in inviting them to an actual conversation to actually ask them exactly what they did here. So they did the right thing by adding something that attracted my attention to the most without adding a lot of details. So I become really intrigued to actually invite them and have a discussion about that. That's how they attracted my attention as a hiring manager to actually invite them to an interview. Now when we go to the experience, again, this section is the same, but now this section is even expanded much better than what we have here. Okay, so here they said that increased payment completion by 1.9% point and so on. But here they say the same section, but they added this, which made a lot of difference. So they captured revenues that previously failed at the checkout because of higher GMV conversion, reduced merchant churn driven by payment failing incidents, and reduced support ticket volume tied to failed payments. So now I know how they did that. They did it by basically fixing checkout. That's really big. Again, here they reduced chargeback. How they did do this? By lowering operational cost per dispute, reduced loss exposure by responding faster with evidence, and improved merchant trust through quicker, clearer dispute outcomes. That's really big. Latency again. What is the business impact here? Improved checkout responsiveness, higher completion rates, fewer drop-off. Basically, they decreased bounce rate because of latency on basically the transaction completion, and they improved partner integration reliability and reduced infrastructure load per request during peak. That's awesome. By the way, something I forgot to tell, I'm looking at those 3 resumes for the first time right now. I asked ChatGPT to generate them per very specific instructions, but I intentionally didn't even look what is the content of here because I wanted my actual feedback about the content of this resume to reflect a real world scenario. And because of this resume, I would be throwing it like immediately in just less than 30 seconds. This one would be certainly shortlisted. This one, I would be telling the recruiter immediately to plan a meeting with this person. It's not even shortlisted, like immediately, like get me a meeting with that person, like in the next week or so, okay? So they did the same pattern everywhere, which is extremely good. And even on the education, they started adding a section called outcome here. So deliver near real-time visibility into error spike, reducing detection from manual spotting to under 60 seconds in tests. That's awesome, because that translates for them when they go into production. Instead of getting an outage or an incident that's user reported, they understand how to build an automated system to catch that once it happens. Basically, how can they build like the actual like good monitoring, alerting, probes, all stuff like that. They would not write a statement like this unless they know, or to be honest, yeah, they could be generating that random shit from AI and stuff like that, but the probability of them understanding this, for me, is way higher than someone like that. So if I got to choose between this resume and this resume, even if both of them generated that entire resume using AI like I did, but the probability of this person knowing better is way more than this one, okay? We only get to judge what we know. I don't know how it was generated, but I get to judge what I have in front of me. So this resume is screaming perfect mid-level engineer, okay? That's someone I would be inviting in an interview like that, like basically in a flip of like really, really quickly, okay? So basically that's how you write a resume that's basically give you the best chance of getting an interview, okay? Put it in your mind, you are dealing with 3 entities to reach an interview phase. ATS, which is very easy to fix right now with all the tools that existing. A recruiter, usually someone not from a technical background, but they just understand some keywords and stuff like that. So the summary section at the beginning, it shouldn't be very technically oriented. It should be more like business oriented. So someone without a lot of technical depth can basically judge if it is adding value or not. And you have the hiring manager, which is someone that's basically would be looking at your resume from a very deep technical perspective and business as well. You need to convince all 3 of them, okay? Something that could come to your mind is like, okay, but the third resume, if we go back, like, yeah, let's forget about it for a moment. You would say like the third resume is like much larger. Like I hear that a lot of recruiter would say that the resume needs to be like 1 page, 2 page. All that is nonsense, okay? The idea of recruiters saying that something should be like 1 page or 2 pages or stuff like that, it's just because they are tired of bullshit, okay? In reality, recruiters, hiring managers don't care at all if your resume is 1 page or 50 pages. If you attract their attention from the first page in your summary section, they will go through your entire resume, even if it's like 20 pages. The reality is they ended up saying that because the majority of applicants don't know how to write a resume. So the easiest way to force everyone to write something that makes sense is to give them like a really small window, 1 to 2 pages. That way they would be forced to write what matters. Because I haven't even gone through like a really bad resume, which is a resume that's like 5 pages and filled of nonsense. Like people, for example, having like a half page about social kind of activities they did at university by basically planning trips and like singing or stuff. Why would I care about them singing or not? Or basically contributing a really big portion of their resume talking about their hobbies and stuff like that. Unless your hobbies like relate to the job some way or another. Like for example, if you are working or applying for software engineer in a company that basically like build an automated system for designing events, then yes, your hobbies in planning events in university would make sense here. But if you're applying with that resume in AWS, for example, I would care less about your ability to design events or stuff like that. It will be basically wasting my time to add something that in a resume. That's why most recruiters will just tell you bluntly, like 1-2 pages, because they don't want to focus very specifically on those kind of details, and that your resume need to basically be like very like built for a specific job and stuff like that. So the easiest way to give one advice that fits everyone, 1-2 pages. But reality is way more complicated than that. Reality, your resume is basically something that should represent you and deliver you to me in the best way possible in the light of the job you're applying for. That's what your resume is built for. That's what I'm expecting as a hiring manager to see. Okay? So I hope this video was useful, and yeah, so good luck with your endeavors and see you in the next one.